All righty. Recording, Norma. All righty. This is a duly called regular council meeting of the town of Anthony, Texas, posted in accordance with section 551.002 and 551.041 of the Open Meetings Act of the Texas Government Code. Public participation, let's see, during the portion of the agenda for public comment is limited to that portion only, except that if a citizen's comments relate to a topic or subject covered under an agenda item, the citizen shall wait to speak until the agenda item comes up for discussion. At all other times during the council meeting, the audience shall not enter into discussion or debate on matters being considered by the presiding officer. Ms. Norma Gonzalez, can we go ahead and do a quorum check, please?
Yes, sir. Councilman Alfaro?
Here.
Councilman Chavez?
I'm sorry about that. I'm here.
Thank you. Councilman Garcia?
Here.
Mayor Potem Weeks?
Here.
And Mayor Romero.
Moving on
Thank you for the forum.
to item 4, open forum for the public limited to 2 minutes. Ms. Norma, were you contacted by anybody wishing to speak in open forum?
No, sir, we were not contacted for no open forum.
Okay, go ahead and let the record reflect. We had nobody sign up for open forum. Moving on to item 5, discussion and action on the following new business. Item 1, discussion, consideration, and action on agreement with Anthony Independent School District for SR services. Chief Enriquez?
So as you know, we approved the SRO contract the last city council meeting, and it was subsequently forwarded to the school for their review and modification, if you will. One of the changes that we did make was to identify the state declared disaster instead of just a natural disaster. And they had no issues with it. They subsequently passed it, I believe it was on Thursday at their last school board meeting. So it was up, I guess, for you all to see if you guys wanted any more discussion on it. I know it was already passed and approved by you all, but I'm just bringing it back up to the table.
Basically, what were the changes, Chief? The only thing was just with council's recommendation and the attorney's guidelines, right? We went ahead and modified, I guess, the requirement for termination of the contract.
That's correct. Just that was the only thing, the only change that we made. From instead of natural disaster, it's we changed the wording to state declared disaster.
Okay. Any comment from council?
No.
Do I have a
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
motion made by Mr. Chavez, seconded by Councilman Garcia to approve the agreement with Anthony Independent School District for SR services? Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Wrap up, going on to departmental reports. Streets, Mr. Jaquez.
How you doing, sir? As you know, but we're still working on the street. We had a little setback today on we had a water leak on the popular streets that they're gonna be paved. Where we had a water leak where one of the constructors actually hit one of the service lines, and we were to find out that we broke 3 of our isolation valves and we couldn't isolate the leak, sir. We finally just got it just a few minutes ago. Okay.
Yeah, and just so council's aware, you know, like we said, those are some of the problems looking into some of these old lines. Even what's shown on the plan isn't technically what we're seeing out there, right, Mr. Jaquez?
Right, sir. As you saw in the plans that I showed you, you saw in the map, it shows valves where they're not supposed to be, and then it shows later on we find valves where they're not even there. But as far as like on streets, we also went ahead and installed a few speed humps on Miriam, the Torres Altos area, on Miriam Street, and we installed some of them. We still need to install more. We got them. We just we're waiting for the spikes. They were not placed in the order, so once we get them, we'll continue installing them the speed humps on the Torres Altos.
Sounds good. In regards to the FM 1905 project, at the recent MPO meeting, everything still looks good to go on that project, so we're not anticipating any issues. We did finally take over the TxDOT project for Wildcat and Franklin. So George Orejel ran into and met up with Ebert and our crews to identify some of the dead trees and stuff, because according to the agreement, they had to get those replaced before we signed over. So they did final walkthroughs on Wildcat, and aside from that, everything was good. The only issue that we do have to report, and it's something that we're going to I'll personally be posting on our pages and some of the town pages as well, is the individuals that are walking their dogs on Wildcat. They are continually letting their dogs defecate, and nobody is picking up after their pets. So I got with Ebert and we purchased some of the little trash receptacles for the little poop bags. And we purchased 6 or 7 of them that we're going to place throughout the entire walk area. Hopefully by then we should be able to encourage more people to keep and pick up after their pets. But definitely Wildcat has been looking really nasty right now, because you can see the feces all over, up and down that walkway, and it's kind of bad. And I wish some of the residents that do walk their pets, if they're the ones that are letting their dogs defecate all over the place without picking it up, we can kindly request that you pick up after your pets, and of course be a responsible pet owner. Other than that, we don't have anything else to report for streets. Anything on Parks and Recreation, Mr. Jaques?
On parks, it's like we opened up the Corporal Enrico Miramontes Park. We opened it up to the public, sir. We took out the caution tape on the benches and the tables. The only thing that we didn't put back was the swings, and the playground still off limits to the public. And also that the barricades that we had blocking the road, says road closed, we went ahead and moved it farther back to the Memorial Park, so we can open up the Arroyo Park, which is now a dog park. Okay. So it's now open, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Ebert. Any questions or anything else from council? Moving on to Police and Fire, Chief Enriquez.
Last week, officers during graveyard shift, specifically Officer Chris Sierra, was patrolling the area. He observed an individual conducted a traffic stop on a pickup truck. Come to find out, during the course of his investigation of just talking with the individual, something didn't sit right. So the sergeant put in a notice of commendation, if you will, that because of this officer's intuition and just his gut feeling, he didn't let the vehicle go. He impounded it because of no insurance. And this is what we tell these citizens. I know we've had some backlash of, why do we impound vehicles for no insurance? Well, this individual wasn't able to provide any sort of documentation or insurance. So the officer, seeing that as a tool, he utilized that ordinance that we have and impounded the vehicle for no insurance. Come to find out, the next day it was actually a stolen vehicle. He had just stolen it from one of the tire shops. He literally was about a block away. The officer conducted a traffic stop. The officer said, something didn't sit right with this individual. And because we had that ordinance, because we had that tool, we were able to impound the vehicle. The individual that left their vehicle there was able to recover the vehicle. So was the person that was responsible for the vehicle, because it was actually there to get serviced. So we like to recognize Officer Sierra for that traffic stop, and this is the type of aggressive patrolling our officers are doing within the community to be able to try and suppress the crime that we have going on. We can't be everywhere at once, but I'm telling you that's just something that is just a keen sense of what we do. Eddie, you had a question?
Awesome, Chief. Eddie, did you have a question? No.
Somebody keeps turning me off. Yeah, Chief, on that vehicle, they didn't detain the individual that stole it, right?
Well, they detained them, they identified them, but of course the individual
Took off.
didn't have didn't have a driver's license, so they only identified him by name and date of birth. We couldn't get an actual return on them. We don't have those fast finger identifications yet, so that would have been key in be able to. So we have a name, date of birth, which is an alias. We have a picture of the individual because the officer also, said something's not right, so he took a picture, so we were able to identify him. He's a local because he's been seen again. So, but no, I mean, we didn't have anything to be able to detain him and to arrest him. I mean, at that time, the car wasn't still reported stolen, so.
You guys weren't aware of that.
Okay. All right, just making sure. Thank you.
And then touching bases on the Wildcat situation with the dogs. We have had the officers out there and they've been talking with the residents that are going out there, walking their dogs. Friendly reminder, hey, if you see anybody, please be courteous. If your dogs do it, just if you can, bring your bags. Some residents are receptive about it. Other residents are like, well, why doesn't the town put any bags and all this? So the corporal's been the one that's been out there and says, hey, well, the town is actively doing that and they're in the process of doing it. But in the meantime, please go ahead and it's your responsibility to pick up after your pet. So they've been out there. Also, we've been out as you probably saw on Facebook, we've been out through city ordinances. So they've been out there with trying to rectify the issue with the no front parking. So they're still continuing with that. They're still looking at the area of Poplar where we were getting those vehicles going back and forth through the construction zone. So the officers have been out there trying to enforce it. I got with the county tax office assessor investigators. They're supposed to be hitting the areas again for the registrations. Yes, sir. They've already identified a bunch of homes up in the Heights area and in the mid part of Anthony. So one of the investigators said that their first process is they send them a notification saying, hey, this is what you guys have. So they built up a paper trail. So once the next is the citations, but they're giving them ample time, especially because of all the COVID stuff.
Thank you, Chief. And, just so people are also aware of the Wildcat thing, that project was still on TxDOT. So basically, because of the fact that it's not a designated trail area, it's just sidewalk. And it was when we, moved forward with the project, we just asked them to widen it a little bit because our overall intent was going to be a shared use path. But, residents need to be aware, according to TxDOT and up to their regulations, since it's not a designated, dog walking area, that's why they did not put any of those little bags or stations there. Now that we finally took over, our intention was always to put some of those receptacles in the area, but regardless, it's still a person's own responsibility to maintain and pick up after their pets. There's different items. They sell little keychains that they put on the leads, that have those items. So that's a sorry excuse that we get some people, when they push back and say, well, why don't we install things for them? Bottom line, it's their responsibility to bring those materials with them if they're going to be walking their dogs. So, but just to help out and be a little bit more courteous and proactive to support it, that's why we're going to put in those receptacles now that we took over. But great job to Chief. I know once it's getting hot, we all know, we start seeing more issues, a lot of more crime and stuff going up in the neighborhood. So I really want to thank them and the police department for, being really proactive in patrolling the neighborhoods. It's always needed. I definitely want to thank Chief and all his crews for doing all he can to, patrol and, keep the neighborhood safe. Anything else for police and fire?
No, not in my answer.
Alrighty. Thank you, Chief.
Hey, Chief.
Yes,
Chief,
sir.
I have something for you. I saw a candidate sign that was torn down in front of that blue trailer. Have you seen that? It's like they're starting to tear them down. That thing was just basically torn off, Chief. They just broke it.
Well, what we can do is we can go by there and then I can get with Ever because I know they were swamped today, but I can get with them. They can pick them up. But unfortunately, unless the candidate themselves turn around and tell us, hey, we want to file a report, then we have to have somebody. But I'll make sure the guys are just
Yes. Okay, Chief. Yeah, I was kind of wondering about that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Moving on to water and sewer, Mr. Jaquez.
On the water and sewer, sir, we already got the pipe for the extension of the line. The one we're gonna do for the Fair Lake road was the Berkelback. All the line was delivered today. We getting to set up once he paid for the tap. And also, as you know, we had a water leak today. We're super busy today. And on that water line, like I said, we found out that our isolation valves don't work. So with the condition, we're probably going to be affecting some residents, and it's going to be during the night, sir. Just to let you know. But other than that, the well's already been tested. I spoke with Mark from Bar Hill, and we're looking at what is the best screen we're going to use in the placement of the pump, which is going to be at the well site, so we can get the most production of water from the well. Okay.
Thank you. Just so we reiterate for the people that are following along with the live stream, some of the problems that we have and challenges as a town is the fact that we don't own any land around here. So the town has been able to go into agreements with certain landowners to trade off and basically, extend basic domestic use water service for some of the areas that are out there in the agricultural area in exchange for well space. We have the other day, Everett, myself, we met with Park Hill Smith and Cooper. We had a web meeting, and we basically were talking with the owners, and we signed off on the documentation that was transferring ownership of that section of property over to the town of Anthony. That way we can secure a future well site, to continue to maintain the needs for the town of Anthony, but also on, managing and being able to promote future growth. So well 2 is getting done. We secured an area for a well site, and we're still continuing to work on other items on our agenda in regards to securing a lift station and another well site from another individual that we've been in contact and working with. So, that's just one of the things we want to keep you guys posted in. And the overall turnaround value for the town is significant compared to what our initial investment is in extending the water line. So it's been a really good, mutual agreement between the landowners and the town. But overall, it's going to be more beneficial for the town of Anthony and the municipality as a whole. Any other questions for water and sewer? Okay, moving on to courts, Mr. Palomares. Norma?
I believe Mr. Palomares right now is busy. Let me report for courts. We did have, for the month of June, we had June the 10th and June the 17th, juvenile dockets and telephonic dockets and video conference. The report amount collected in warrants, it's 1,379 with 23 cents. And the following courts for July is going to be July the 8th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., July 15th, 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., and July 22nd, 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And that's all I have for courts.
Moving on to finance. At this point in time, during our last departmental meeting, I did talk to Chief and conveyed to all our department heads, Everett and Norma, that, I want them to start working on the preliminary budget numbers so they can submit to David. And then I'll be getting together and setting up a meeting with Mr. Weeks and going over with the department heads to kind of start putting together a basic budget proposal for council, and pretty much, just get things going. That way we can be on track for, adopting the budget moving on, September, October. Any comments, Mr. Weeks?
None.
Okay. Moving on to administration. On the last mayor's meeting, we did talk, and I did ask a question to the judge and see what they were going to be doing and how they were going to be handling the 4th of July. As you know, the drought index is not high enough to ban certain fireworks, so they just did a request to some of the vendors about not selling particular items. But all the information and all the directives and recommendations have been sent out to all the vendors that are going to be in the area and selling throughout the county and El Paso. And basically, you know, they're all going to be monitoring and maintaining social distancing requirements, and also for popping fireworks here for the residents. As they all know, and everybody should know, fireworks will only be allowed on the actual 4th of July on that day. So anybody else, you know, popping fireworks, things of that nature, you know, may cease possible citations, fireworks confiscated, warnings, and, you know, like I said, possible citations. So we wanted to go into that. And then also, we are going to be moving forward and continuing with our annual tradition with doing the 4th of July parade. I did get with Ebert, and, you know, Norma and Valerie are handling the information and sending out for the registrations and stuff. We do got people interested. There are going to be certain criteria and guidelines that we do have to follow in order to have a successful parade while maintaining the social distancing and minimizing any potential for COVID-19 exposure. So I'll keep you guys more posted on that, but we are looking to have the parade. You all are invited to join in as usual on the town's float, and it'll be July 4th, Saturday. Parade start at 10 a.m. and then should be wrapping up promptly at 12, and we'll go from there. In regards to the administration, also, as you all know, the county judge and Mayor Margot, with Governor Abbott, he did allow the municipalities and the smaller cities to move forward with requiring businesses to enforce the mask regulations. So Chief has already sent out the email. We should probably touch base with some of the businesses if you haven't already, Chief, and just make sure that everybody's has a clear understanding of what the expectations are and what the pretty much rules and laws are going to be following that directive. Anything else? Any questions from anybody else? All right, is that it? All right, moving on to the next regular council meeting is scheduled at 6:30 p.m. on Monday, July 13, 2020. As you all know, we do have a workshop after this, so don't hang up. We will end the recording for the council meeting, and then we'll promptly start and continue on with our workshop. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
I have a motion made by Mr. Garcia. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to adjourn the meeting passes. Thank you all for following on, and everybody that's online. Thank you for keeping up.
Mayor, I wanted to apologize for joining in late, but I was tied up on another Zoom meeting. So